The title of this podcast is my ego is like a spoiled child. Yeah, it really is. I remember when I would be with my mother growing up, when I was growing up and with my mother, we'd be in a department store somewhere and we would see another kid who is screaming, throwing a tantrum because they want candy and this parent is saying, no, we're not buying that. And they would be on the floor, kicking, screaming, just carrying on. And we'd be about the same age, and I wouldn't be doing any of this. A lot of that is because my mom had made sure that that behavior was never going to happen, whether we were out in public or we were in the privacy of our own home. That was not happening. But the biggest mistake that parent could do is to give that kid uh, what they wanted in that moment, because all it does is reinforces that behavior that to get what they want, all they have to do is be a 1.0 about it. All they have to do is be their lowest self, and that will produce an outcome that they desire. And if you are not careful, what would happen is they will become an adult who's doing it in their relationships, as well as in the workplace. And so very early on, my mom knew this was not the kind of behavior that she wanted to experience from me. And she didn't want other people that I come in contact with down the road in my life to also experience that kind of behavior. But so just as, you know, most parents wouldn't give a spoiled child everything it wants, it's important to not give your small child, which is your ego, everything it wants. And for the longest time, I did exactly that. I gave my little child, my ego, exactly what it wanted. And when it didn't get what it wanted, it carried on. 4 years in Yuma, Arizona, when I was in the Marine Corps, is an example of that. I wanted to be stationed in Tennessee. I was stationed in Yuma, Arizona. And for 4 years, this spoiled child did nothing but complain about being stationed in Yuma and lost out on what could have been a really meaningful and more beautiful experience. Same thing happens at work. When people don't get what they want at work, whether it's in the form of salary, in the form of different perks, being able to work with their best friend at work, the type of work they do, watch the spoiled child comes out and watch them behave in a way that is not good for the culture. It's not good for their colleagues, and it's not good for them. So what's really important is that you want to notice when that spoiled child starts to act out. And I've had certain things happen, which fortunately with the practice, I have awareness. It's happened in the workplace when I've gotten a new leader. And all of a sudden I feel like this leader may not give me the same kind of choice and autonomy that I've enjoyed before. Like this is going to be a problem. So what did I start doing? I started either like complaining about the leader, even before I even had my first experience with them. When they start to talk to me about their vision, I'm not really hearing their vision. I am hearing I'm hearing what they're saying through my own filter, which is that the way that I want things to remain is going to be threatened by them being here. So it's not even an objective, listening session. It's completely the opposite. So that's a spoiled child fearing that they're not going to get what they want. But the wise person says that part of me has got to go because I don't want to live my whole life throwing tantrums. And if after a while, if you don't really become aware of this, you will, I mean, that's a scary part of it is that oftentimes there's a lack of awareness that that's what you're doing, that you're being a small child throwing a tantrum. I didn't get this particular case, or I didn't have this staff member work with me. The list goes on and on, with your loved ones, all the kind of demands and expectations that you place on them when you don't get what you wanted. It shows up in such a way. It's your birthday. Your loved one or friend has to work on your birthday. Maybe they had to work late. I mean, and you throwing a tantrum because they didn't show up today because it's your birthday. Like all those things. You begrudge your significant other for going out to do things to support their well-being, no matter what it is, poker, backpacking, golfing, whatever it is. Notice that small child in there. And just like you wouldn't give that 2 year old who's carrying on in the department store what they wanted because it sets a bad precedent and it only creates suffering, even if they're not aware of it, for themselves and others, don't do it with you. Be really aware of that small child in you. And every time they pipe up, the one thing you're thinking about is that's got to go. Not the situation on the outside. It's not you getting what you want because that's temporary. You will act out again when it's the next thing you want. Now, what has to go is that part of you that is keeping you from being peaceful, from being loving, and having an open heart. That certainly was the case with me. Is I suffered a lot. Those days are few and far between now, though, because we do a really good job of working with and disciplining that child in me. But the key is to stay aware because before you know it, it will be throwing the biggest tantrum you've ever seen, and you will have no clue. It'll be 2 or 3 days, if then, that you notice it. But everyone around you will pay the price.